Ladies and gentlemen, what is up and welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be talking all about what makes a good champion in Marvel Contest of Champions, and I'm going to be giving you kind of my thought process when looking at a new champion to decide whether or not, it's a good champion. Is it a champion I want to play? Is it a champion I want to rank up? Is it a good champion? And that's kind of the baseline of this. So in the context that we're looking at good champions, it's really in terms of the end game. So you've got three things: you've got Alliance Quest, you've got Alliance War, and generally really annoying difficult quests like Road to Labyrinth, Chapter 4. So those are the main things we're going to be keeping in mind, the content wise, when we're looking at champions. We're going to be keeping in mind all of those aspects of the end game of Marvel Contest of Champions. Now, champions, whether they're good or not, is split into two categories, and that's offensive. Is it good to play this champion? And defensive, is this champion going to make a good Alliance War defender? Now, the offensive checklist, I think one of the most important things, especially when going through Alliance Quest and Alliance War and Chapter 4, is the first point I have on here, which is regeneration or stability of the champion. So this, for example, is the ability for a champion to continually regenerate health, or have a good level of stability where when you're blocking and parrying, you're pretty much taking no damage, and if you're playing the fight perfectly, you are pretty much not dying. So that's pretty much like Captain America and Quake. When you're blocking and playing perfectly, because of their additional block chance and shield, you are taking close to no damage, and that really what makes Captain America such a powerful champion in an Alliance War and a lot of other endgame aspects. And onto regeneration, especially when you're going through Alliance Quest, that's what makes champions like Scarlet Witch, Doctor Strange, Wolverine, Ghost Rider, sometimes Guillotine to a certain extent with her little bit of a heal, and also the classic version of Deadpool, so amazingly good, because every fight they can just regenerate a ton of health. So even if you do mess up, because you're playing Alliance Quest at several times of the day, it could be in the morning, could be in the evening, and there's always the chance that, you're going to slip up. Like, sometimes you're a little bit tired, sometimes you've just woken up, so it's good to be able to regenerate the health back, and that's really what, is quite important, especially for Alliance Quest when you're doing it like 5 days a week. So those are the two base things that really help. But the next thing is what makes champion good is also having an insane amount of jet damage. That can also be a second point. So when we're looking at champions like Star-Lord, when we're looking at champions like Thor, Storm, Iron Fist, champions that just do a ridiculous amount of damage. Also Wolverine X-23 and Symbiote Spider-Man are in there, because those champions just do crazy amounts of damage, so can really help get stuff done really quickly for dealing with various regeneration and kind of like enrage timers on Alliance Quest bosses. The insane damage is like really important, and Thor and Star-Lord are just excellent boss killers. They're probably the two examples of like really crazy damage in the game that kind of suit best. And Star-Lord is pretty much one of the required characters for Labyrinth of Legends. I have heard of people doing it with Thor and also Rocket Raccoon, but you're going to have the easiest time using a Star-Lord because his damage is just so crazy. And if you happen to look at like the spectrum of damage, if you compare like a Star-Lord and a Thor to something like a Luke Cage or Spider-Gwen, you can really see the damage difference there. It's absolutely phenomenal. You would nowhere even be able to get like 50% of most Alliance Quest bosses down with like a Luke Cage, Spider-Gwen, or Iron Patriot. But in like a minute or maybe a minute and a half, you can get most Alliance Quest bosses down with either a Star-Lord or Thor. So that's really what makes those champions so good comparatively. Now, the next thing that can make a champion good for offensive is having a good utility. And utility actually is quite a wide spectrum of things. It could be that a champion is poison immune to cover a certain path. Like Ultron is a great example of that. It could be that they have a power drain, which is what makes Vision so good, and that was needed for a certain amount of quests, like the Ghost Rider event, where you physically couldn't play. There was no way to play around as level 3 apart from either to eat with Magneto. Again, the utility of being able to survive a level 3 hit, or being able to power drain with Vision. So again, it's having like those occasional champions that have like the right utility and the best utility to deal with some fights. Also stuff like heal block, heal reversal with a guillotine is very good. Another example of utility as well is lots of debuffs, so champions like Black Panther X23 combined with the Despair Mastery. You can heavily debuff the opponent, which basically means that you're reducing their healing by anywhere between about like 60 to 100% in some cases, so that's also very good. Some other examples of utility are Black Widow and Crossbones, the ability to pretty much reliably bypass a lot of the enemy's ability accuracy. So ability accuracy is stuff that triggers when the champion is being hit, so stuff like evade, buffs as well. That makes, you know, Black Widow, dupe level 99, by far one of the best Alliance War attackers, because, you know, you can bypass Electro's damage back, you can bypass Spider-Man's evade, so it makes a lot of stuff, you know, considerably easier to fight. So in my opinion, those are kind of the three things that make champions really, really good. And there are some champions, again, like Spider-Gwen, Luke Cage, and I'm Patriot, and Kamala Khan, and War Machine, who don't necessarily fall into any of those categories. And in my opinion, or if they do fall into those categories, might I add, that there's like a little bit of a better option. Like with Luke Cage, if you were to play him on a bleed immune node, you'd probably much rather have somebody like an Ultron who's dealing more damage and also has regeneration and stacks of bleed, or have Vision, somebody who has like power drain and heal block. So comparatively, while playing that champion, you know, there are better options. That's really also something to bear in mind as well. Like, you have to think about the characters that you get in the wider spectrum of the game. Like, yeah, Luke Cage, you know, he's bleed immune, but realistically, is he going to be good enough for some of the stuff? And the answer to that is no. But, you know, he does have some potential uses in Alliance War Defense, which is the next thing we're going to talk about, which is a defensive context for the champion. Now, Alliance, when kind of thinking about ranking up champions, I personally think that Alliance War Defense kind of takes a little bit of second priority. I think it's much better, in my opinion, to get your offensive roster in order so that you can do all these new challenges, all the difficult stuff, so that you can gain even more rewards and kind of spiral your progression up that way. And then focus on building your defense, because if you build your defense first, then you're going to have all these great characters for defense, but you're not really going to have the power to do some of the more difficult stuff in the game. So yeah, that's kind of my opinion on ranking up champions. Defensive stuff is stuff that you should focus on a little bit later. And my defensive roster at the moment isn't really that great, because, you know, I'm pouring a lot of stuff into upping my prestige for Alliance Quest, and also trying to get some of the god tier champions kind of ranked up so I can do Labyrinth of Legends and stuff like that. But anyway, let's talk about what makes a defensive champion good. A champion good in Alliance War. So the first thing is evade. Evade is huge and very, very annoying. A lot of people suck at playing around evade. They just straight suck at it and will get absolutely wrecked to something like a Spider-Man, a Miles Morales, even an Ultron. That occasional evade that just has the chance to trigger out of nowhere, as well as Black Widow, can really just screw people over because they're not really anticipating it. So that's one of the things that just is so great. Evade can just properly wreck people, and that's probably one of the top things for Alliance War Defense. But the second thing is guaranteed damage. Now, guaranteed damage, the only exception where guaranteed damage can be completely bypassed is via, you know, using a dupe level 99 Black Widow. But when I say guaranteed damage, I mean champions like Electro and champions like Magic, where when you're hitting them, you're, you know, taking damage back. 35% of the damage you do to Electro is returned to the attacker, and also while pushing Magic up via the various power levels, she's triggering her rewind effect, which is dealing energy damage to you, which is completely unavoidable. There are ways to negate it, but for the most part, it's, you know, pretty unavoidable. You're going to take like some damage from that. And that's quite important when you're getting to the end game, that you have some sort of guaranteed damage on as many nodes as possible, because with a Black Widow, the Black Widow's disadvantage is that she doesn't have perfect block, and that she is going to be chipped down by every node that she does. Even if you're like fighting an Electro and you play perfectly, she's still going to take a little bit of damage. So if there are a lot of Electros, there's a lot of room for error, and that Black Widow is probably going to be dead by the time you come to some of the later nodes. So yeah, that's kind of the second thing, guaranteed damage. And the next thing we talk about is annoying specials that are ridiculously hard to evade. So we're talking about Spider-Man's level 1, Doctor Strange's level 2 on an unblockable. I think those are probably like 2 examples. I can't think of any more off the top of my head, but there are a few specials in the game. Let's just have a little bit of a think as well. Red Hulk's level 2, Cyclops' level 2 is really annoying to evade for a lot of people. Ultron's level 2 especially, just specials that are really difficult to evade and to like fully get down while taking 0 damage are exceptionally good for Alliance War. Some people say that War Machine's level 1. People are like, you know, whenever you talk about War Machine, everyone's like, oh, you know, War Machine's so good on unblockable level 1, because, you know, he has like, he just fires off several machine gun hits without a hit first, so the first, machine gun bullet is unblockable, and that's very, you know, annoying to fight. But you only really have like a few unblockable level 1 nodes in Alliance War, and is it really like worth ranking up a War Machine when you could, you know, rank up like a Star-Lord or Ultron, and they're like great for so many other purposes? So yeah, in my opinion, like War Machine, although people say that he's good for unblockable level 1, outside of that, he just doesn't really have too much use in my opinion, because outside of unblockable level 1, he's so easy to fight. And then the next thing we talk about is great node synergy. So this is stuff like placing a character like Hulkbuster or Luke Cage on the Thorns node. You know, Luke Cage, I will say that he does probably have an okay use on the Thorns node. Is he the best character for it? Against physical characters? Maybe, but it seems that Mordo is now by far the best character for Thorns node, because you actually can't bypass the Thorns with Black Widow against a Mordo, because his ability does not allow that. So, you know, Luke Cage, alright option for Thorns node, but maybe not the best. But we're talking about just kind of like pairing up the nodes. Like, you know, you got your Spider-Man with Evade, you put that on an Unstunnable, because a lot of people play around Evade by kind of parrying the opponent and then doing like free attacks into that, and then rinse and repeating. Or, you know, putting your Spider-Man on an unblockable level 1. Just, you know, nodes that really screw with people. Doctor Strange on an unblockable level 2 is one of my favorite as well. But yeah, it's just kind of matching up and getting the right node synergy, and that does take a while to kind of figure out which ones are the best. And we might do a video on that at sometime in the future, but that's something as well that I believe, you know, makes a champion pretty great. And the final thing we have is Mystic Dispersion. Now, I wanted to mention this as well, because Mystic Dispersion comes into play a lot at endgame Alliance War. So Mystic Dispersion, we'll quickly get it up on the mastery tree for you guys. So essentially, whenever a debuff expires on the attacker, basically a Mystic champion will gain up to, I believe it's 12% power? Yes, 12% power. And especially with, like, the Evade Mastery. So let's have a look at Dexterity. So Dexterity, when you're dodging back, and when you evade an attack, you actually gain a plus 10% crit buff. And when this expires, it gives the opponent, you know, 12% power if Mystic Dispersion is fully maxed out. So along with, you know, the various debuffs and buffs that characters get, it is so annoying to fight Mystic champions, especially stacked ones like Juggernaut, like Unstoppable Colossus, like Magic, like Doctor Strange, when the enemy has 5 out of 5 Mystic Dispersion. It is so annoying and so easy for you to be pushed over that threshold and go into a level 3. So Mystic champions, especially in the end game, just become crazy good. If you know you have the spare mastery points to allocate to that, Mystic Dispersion can make your Mystic defenders just absolute god mode, and it's a little bit hard to explain until you've actually like faced Mystic Dispersion and seen it in action. But you know, if you do want kind of a fun experience and to try fighting Mystic Dispersion. If you go onto the leaderboard, there are some really stacked Mystic characters, like there's probably a Juggernaut and Magic from HQ Sean, so yeah, just fight those. If you want to see Mystic Dispersion in action, again, just check out HQ Sean or Traded Man, and you will see how easily it is to get wrecked to that mastery. You know, it's so easy to build up to level 3, and especially when you have like a stacked 550 champion or a 441, the level 3 will just one-shot the opponent. So those champions are absolutely amazing and so annoying to fight, just because of that one very simple mastery. Anyway, guys, that was my thoughts on some of the, you know, what makes a champion good in Marvel Contest of Champions. I hope you enjoyed this video and learned a little bit more about some of the characters and their uses in the game. Thank you very much for watching, guys. If you do have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. If you did enjoy the video, guys, feel free to leave a thumbs up. That'd be greatly appreciated. Apart from that, guys, once again, hope you enjoyed the video. Take care and have an absolutely fantastic day.